Welcome back to Energy Bites, where I talk about all things energy for a happier and healthier life. I'm going to start today's video by asking you a simple question. Are you happy with the life you're living, or are you searching for more? A lot of people get so caught up in chasing, consuming, and comparing that they forget to actually live. For example, you might understand the concept of limiting beliefs, but are you actually applying that knowledge in your life? Maybe you think you need to do certain things in order to advance spiritually, or that you have to avoid certain other things because they'll hold you back. Now, of course, there are some universal truths, like if you want inner peace, you need to slow down, steady your emotions, and gain control over your thoughts. And yes, there are tools that can help with this: mindfulness, breath work, meditation, energy healing, and so on. But here's the problem. Some people are doing some or even all of these things at the expense of actually living their lives. Life is meant to be experienced, and with experience comes emotions, good ones and bad. And within those emotions are your life lessons. I'll explain what these are in just a moment after I tell you a story about how I stumbled upon the meaning of life. A few years back, someone asked me, "What is the meaning of life?" Without thought or hesitation, I answered, "To learn." And that's what life lessons are all about. But what exactly are we learning? We're learning to master all aspects of being, to understand and experience the full range of emotions, and to develop our character by overcoming our flaws and mastering virtues. In pranic healing, virtues are grouped into 5 key categories, and you'll see that they're grouped into do's and don'ts. There's loving kindness and non-injury towards oneself and to others, generosity and non-stealing, honesty and non-lying, constancy and one-pointedness in aim and effort and non-laziness, and finally, moderation and non-excessiveness. Interestingly enough, the same idea exists in other traditions and practices. In martial arts, and I can speak for Shotokan Karate, the very first rule of the dojo within the dojo-kun is to seek perfection of character. Discipline, respect, patience, honor, courage, and self-control are fundamental. And if you really think about it, this is just another path to the same goal, which is character development, or the purification of the soul. I like to think of life as a treasure hunt, where we're all on a mission to seek our treasures. These treasures include the range of emotions we can experience, which once obtained can unlock the key to the next level. Now, in order to find these treasures, we must encounter experiences that will lead to each specific emotion. For example, a failed relationship may reveal sadness or even betrayal, whereas a job promotion would reveal excitement, joy, and positive self-assurance. Life lessons are valuable pieces of knowledge or understanding that we gain from experiences that help us to navigate life more effectively. They can even help to transmute lower emotions to higher ones, which in turn will allow us to raise our vibrations or frequencies. These lessons will also enable us to eradicate our character flaws or weaknesses, so in effect, helping us to purify our inner being. I'll give you an example of this. Let's say you're jealous of someone, and their accomplishments are causing you to feel badly about your own abilities. Each time this person achieves something, you don't congratulate them, and instead you talk badly about them to others. Over time, you might find that people are drawn to this person more than they're drawn to you. This may be because you're full of negativity, whereas the other person may exude confidence and perhaps even humility. The life lesson that may be presented here is for your rival to show kindness to you and even help you to move forward. And while this is happening, perhaps you're experiencing another lesson that your unkind words and gestures are not being appreciated by others. Over time, you may realize this, which will help to stop the cycle of negativity and self-loathing, and you may even start to appreciate the positive traits of this person. So from jealousy, you start to feel respect towards them, and realize that their accomplishments aren't actually taking away from your own achievements. For the rest of this video, I'm going to talk about 10 life lessons that I've witnessed in myself or in other people that could possibly help you to identify a lesson you may be facing. This one is personal to me, and in fact, it was one of my lessons that took me the longest to learn. And this is the lesson of self-respect and self-love through my relationships. I used to allow people to treat me in ways I didn't deserve. So people would tease me, talk down to me, and even insult me. And I allowed it to happen because deep down, I thought maybe they're right. But over time, I realized that how others treated me was a reflection of how I saw myself. It was my reaction and my energy that enabled them to continue to do this. In fact, it got worse and worse until I was finally fed up and chose to stand up for me and finally walking away from the toxic people in my life. It was when I started showing myself love, respect, and kindness that people began to treat me the way I deserved to be treated. So if you have people in your life that are treating you badly, then it's important to look at yourself first and ask whether you're allowing this to happen. It's quite possible that your case isn't about this lesson at all, but when you break it down, your thoughts, words, and actions are what you can control, not another person's. So look to see how you can change something within yourself, and you'll find that the outcome will often change as well. So in the workplace, I used to stay quiet even when I had a different view. I was afraid of being wrong, or worse, being judged, so I went along with things, even when I knew better. But I finally learned that my voice mattered. Being honest and objective, even when it's uncomfortable, is part of growth. When I was finally able to express my ideas, argue my concerns, and give a different perspective to everyone else in the room, I found that I was listened to. In fact, as a result, I was being promoted again and again. Now, you might say that the opposite could have happened, and yes, you're right. But if this doesn't work for you, then perhaps you're facing another life lesson, one that requires resilience and the ability for you to hold true to your values and beliefs despite what other people think. Either way, you're gaining a valuable lesson. So for me, my fear of being wrong and my fear of being judged turned into courage, confidence, and self-belief. I realize that there are times where I may be wrong, but nobody's perfect, and it's all part of life and the learning process. In fact, being wrong can sometimes lead to some of the biggest lessons learned. So it's important not to avoid these, but to embrace them. I was hosting a seminar, and one of the guests was interested in getting treatments from me for a chronic illness. But he also asked about another practitioner who lived closer to him. Now, I could have just kept the focus on myself, but I knew it would be more convenient for him to see her. So I gave him her details and explained how she was an excellent practitioner if he chose to take that option. Doing what's right, even when it doesn't benefit you, strengthens your character. And always remember that karma plays a role as well. For example, if you respond with jealousy and greed, you'll also attract the same. So if you're finding the people in your work life extremely competitive, then maybe it's worth trying to lift them up rather than push them down. After all, isn't that what you'd want them to do for you? When someone wrongs you, it's tempting to share damaging information about them, especially if it makes you look better. I had to learn that real honesty means choosing not to twist the truth, even when it's easy to do so. When I was in a bad point in my life, people I knew were spreading lies about me and twisting the truth to the point where I felt that there was no return. It destroyed my friendships, and it nearly destroyed my family life as well. At first, I wasn't able to pass my life test. I convinced myself that I was retaliating and defending myself, and this justified what I was saying back about them. I eventually learned that what I was doing wasn't solving the problem. In fact, I realized that there was no one to blame, and the negative words and behaviors had to stop with me. Energy flows where your attention goes, so when you put your focus onto something, it will magnify. In my case, it started small, where a couple of people said some pretty nasty things about me. What I know now is that I should have spoken to them directly, or even just left it alone. By doing so, things would have naturally calmed down. But instead, I fueled the behavior with more negativity, which ended up spiraling out of control. So take this as a lesson in your life if it applies to you. See if there's a reason behind the words and actions. And if there isn't, then sometimes the lesson is just to leave things be and not to place any more energy into something you don't want to grow. Do you rely on other people to do things for you? Maybe it's handling finances, fixing things around the house, or making important decisions. I used to leave certain responsibilities to others, thinking I wasn't capable enough, but learning to stand on my own 2 feet gave me confidence I didn't know I had. Over the past few years, I found that this life lesson is showing up in many of the women that I know. This could be the case of a breakup or even a divorce where they're left not knowing whether they can manage their lives. And it's not always easy, but I've witnessed many people get back on their feet and figuring things out, all the way from seeking emotional support to getting a handle of their finances. Although self-esteem can play a role with this lesson, it's also due to people assuming roles or identities. Maybe you grew up in a family where your father always took care of fixing things around the house and your mother did all of the cooking and cleaning. Although it may not necessarily be a belief that you hold today, it's easy to get into a routine that you know and are familiar with. So the next time you get frustrated or even annoyed that someone hasn't done something you thought they should have, think about whether this is a rule you've put into place or whether it's something you can just do for yourself. When you clear others, including yourself, of identities and roles, you learn to remove expectations, which can lead to finding that you're capable of much more than you thought. Picture yourself in a store. You've picked out some items to purchase, and you bring it to the till. If the store clerk forgets to charge you for an item, do you point it out or do you keep quiet? It might not seem like a big deal, but taking something without paying is still stealing. You might even find your answer changes depending on the price or the amount of the item. But I'm sorry to tell you, it doesn't matter if you're talking about hundreds or just about a few pennies. Not paying for something, even if it's a mistake by the store, is still being dishonest. This lesson is so ingrained in me now that even if I walk out of a grocery store and remember that I didn't scan one of the bags, I'll go back and pay. Trust me, it's not worth it to walk away from a life lesson, especially if it's such an easy thing to do. Integrity means doing the right thing, however small or seemingly insignificant, even when no one is watching. Have you ever been in an argument where your emotions took over? I've been there, but reacting with anger and blame only fuels negativity. Learning to pause, take a breath, and responding calmly is a skill that changes everything. And I literally mean everything. I used to have the same arguments over and over again with someone in my life. In fact, it happened so often that just them uttering one word would trigger my emotions and cause me to go into defense mode. I started not to only expect a fight, but I think I even started to initiate it. When it comes to the people who are close to us, we tend to create expectations for them that we wouldn't with other people. But it's important to step back and see them as normal human beings with real emotions as well. So of course, we'll tend to get triggered more with the people we care about because we care so much more about them. The key words here are to step back and see the situation with awareness. Awareness that the pattern is repeating, almost as if each person is responding automatically and in routine. When you're not aware, then this is when you'll say the same things over and over again and keep getting the same result. But when you can step back and see things for what they truly are, you're more able to choose your next thoughts, your next words, and your next actions more wisely. When you're able to change your reactions and consciously choose a different one, then and only then will you get a different outcome. I remember when I started to respond differently, and instead of reacting like I always did, I stopped myself and instead I listened. This in itself created a shift in the pattern, and I noticed that we were moving slightly forward. Each time I was able to respond calmly and without judgment, things improved more and more until finally the pattern was broken. Obviously, when you're in the situation, it's not as easy to do this, especially if you're being emotionally triggered. But the key to my change was through me. This is when I started to practice meditation regularly and consistently. And at the risk of sounding like a broken record, I'll put a link in the description below to the meditation that literally transformed my life, and I'm sure it can do the same for you as well. If you're given the opportunity to help someone else, but it means giving up an advantage for yourself, do you hoard what you know, or do you share and help? Oftentimes, we hear about people who do good, whether it's charity work, giving back to the community, or giving to those in need. But helping others isn't just about when it works for us or when it's convenient. I'm not saying that someone who gives, but with a parallel agenda of having this look good on a CV, for example, isn't doing something good. Of course it's good and benefiting others. But a person's true character is shown when they help others, even if no one's watching. So you may be presented with an opportunity to do just this, a life lesson, where you're in the midst of a chaotic moment and someone needs your help. And maybe it's not appropriate to drop what you're doing every single time. But when you do what you can, especially when it's inconvenient and unrecognized, know that you're likely to be passing one of your life lessons, and with flying colors. Learning when to stop has been one of my biggest life lessons. Whether it was food, alcohol, or other indulgences, I had to learn the hard way that excess leads to imbalance. There are different reasons why people become addicted to something, and usually there's an underlying emotion attached to it. For example, someone who smokes may be doing so because of anxiety. Although this doesn't actually help calm you down, the act itself may be allowing someone to momentarily calm their nerves and relax. And the same goes for alcohol. I know for me, the first time I consumed alcohol, my impression wasn't, wow, this is delicious. In fact, it was quite the opposite. But when I was younger, I found that this was a confidence booster, and I was able to say what I thought and do what I wanted. The fear of judgment just seemed to disappear. When I got older, drinking also became a way to unwind and relax. But with everything, moderation is key. So when anything becomes a need where you can't let go of it at any given time, then maybe it's time to revisit your habits and decide whether the benefits outweigh the costs. Let's face it, endings can be very hard, whether it's a relationship, a job, or ending a chapter of your life. Letting go is one of the hardest but most necessary lessons. I'll give you an example of a job that I had. I held a position in a company where I was recognized and well respected. In fact, because I was there for years, I actually started to find it pretty easy. Every year, although people would change, the process itself would stay the same, and I found a comfortable place where I added value but without too much extra effort. Now, you may have heard, if you don't feel uncomfortable, then you're not learning. And this was the case for me. The company didn't have any room for me to grow, and finally I started experiencing things that felt like I was being pushed out. When one or two obstacles get in your way, then you take action to overcome them and move on. But you know it's a life lesson when the challenges keep on coming, each time more difficult. I like explaining this like hitting a brick wall. You could be driving in one direction, and you see some road signs directing you to turn around. When you ignore these signs, then you might get to a roadblock. When you refuse to turn around and try to force your way through the roadblock, you'll eventually hit a brick wall. Now, this brick wall isn't going anywhere, so the longer you sit there waiting for it to clear, the more painful it will be. Sometimes life will give you some signs, some detours, and some roadblocks. But when you ignore these signs and refuse to change direction, you'll eventually be forced to stop. Just like the brick wall, you'll be faced with something that won't allow you to go any further. And in this case, you just need to accept this and turn around to go another way. Life lessons don't just show up once and then disappear. They keep coming back again and again until you truly master them. Think of it like school. You don't just take one math test and suddenly understand everything. You need repetition, practice, and proof that you really get it before you move on to the next level. If you're finding that your lessons seem to be getting harder, there are two possible reasons. You're not paying attention to the signs. If this is the case, it's time to slow down and do the inner work. The clutter in your mind and emotions could be clouding your awareness. As I mentioned earlier, meditation is a powerful tool to help clear out the negative thoughts and emotions that don't serve you. Check out the description below for a link to the meditation I recommend, along with other resources that can help. Another possible reason is that you've moved on to a higher level of life school. Just like in education, as you progress, the tests get more challenging. But here's the thing, you are never given a test that you can't pass. The universe doesn't hand out impossible exams, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. The key to success remains the same: awareness. The more aware you are, the better you can identify, understand, and pass your life lessons. So if you want to level up, make sure you're prepared. Check out the links in the description below for the resources that helped me on my journey. Life isn't easy, and neither are its lessons. It's like being thrown into an exam with no textbook. You get tested first, and then you figure out what you were supposed to learn. And if you don't learn it the first time, life will keep sending the same lesson, just in different forms, until you finally get it. Like if you let people take advantage of you, that pattern will continue, probably getting worse until you set boundaries. Some lessons are quick to learn, others take a lifetime or even more. But through it all, don't forget to live. Lessons are part of life, but they aren't meant to keep you from experiencing the joy, the excitement, and the beauty of it all. If you look at each setback, each obstacle, and each disappointment as a lesson to be learned, then you'll discover that these are hidden messages that are meant to guide you to become the best version of yourself. Thanks so much for watching. If this video helped or resonated with you, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more of my inspirational content. Remember, you're not alone in your journey, and there are many ways to get through it all. But know that once you understand how energy works, then and only then can you truly improve every single area of your life and live a happier, healthier, and more fulfilling life. Until next time, take care, stay inspired, and never stop believing in the power of energy.